7th. The clerk will call the roll.
Do you want to do the invocation?
I'm following your thing. You put call to order number 1, so we can do the invocation or the roll call. All right then, invocation. I stand corrected. If you would please pray with me, and then we'll follow this prayer by a salute to our flag. Let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, God, we're so thankful to be in your presence. We're so thankful to be blessed by you and to know that you hear our prayers. God, we pray your blessing on the city of Durant, on its citizens, on the staff of the city that work hard every day to make the lives of everyone here in Durant better. God, help us as we contemplate and work on and think about the future of the city of Durant, that we can make the best decisions, put the best ordinances and rules in place, God, to deliver a beautiful city in the future for these citizens. And God, we just pray that everything we do tonight will bring glory and honor to your name. And all these things we ask for in Jesus' name. Amen. If you would join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, please be seated. Thank you. Now, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Shear.
Here.
Councilmember Fuller.
Here.
Vice Mayor Simulescu.
Here.
Mayor Tucker.
Here. The first order of business under administration, item A. I guess it'll take me longer to read these, but I'll read the item and then we'll open it up for discussion. Consider and take action with respect to a resolution authorizing the calling and holding of an election in the city of Durant, state of Oklahoma, the city, for the purpose of submitting to registered qualified electors of said city the question of approval or rejection of an ordinance of the city, which amends ordinance number 1430 of the city and ordinance number 1431 of the city by eliminating the termination date for the collection of excise tax, sales tax, levied pursuant to said ordinances, and by modifying the purpose of said tax and containing other provisions relating thereto, which is R 2023-25. Now, Ann Chin has made a super heroic effort, even though she doesn't feel well, to be here tonight. Do you have anything that you want to inform the council on while you're here? And we appreciate you coming out.
Okay, I think everybody have this sheet, right? This is the one that I used the past 15 years, the quarter-cent sales tax, to kind of like generate estimate the future revenue. And you know that the sales tax is unpredictable, but so that's why I use a project one is project high, 3.1, and then another one is project a little bit low, 2.52. And then you will see that there's a color, different colors. On the left side, the blue one, that 20 to 22, that is the COVID period. So I take it out that is not really normal date. So on your right side, the projection, you can see that almost every 6 to 7 years I flattened it, because I find out the pattern that every 6 to 7 years our sales tax flattened it the following years. So that's how I did it. So this is only for the quarter cent, but remember we have 2 quarter cents. So if we project it, for example, the 24, 25, we can get it's not a lot of difference. We can get about 1.3 million per year, and the two quarter cent is about 2.6 million. Yeah.
Very good. Any questions of Ann? And thank you. Anything else you want to add to that? I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And this information is very helpful in this graphical form as well. Any other comments, discussions, questions that Rick can answer?
So I think the one thing we had talked about is a sunset. There's no sunset on this.
This one would not. This one would not have a maturity date or a sunset date.
Our the 1% that we re-upped recent, or was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. That has a sunset, does it? Has The 20 or, it was like the general, right, the 1% for the general fund.
Ann's nodding yes.
Um,
Ann says yes.
What's the sunset on that one?
Well, last time, I think it's
This one?
25 years, and that's for the 1%. And then we kind of like request to get another 20 years.
Okay,
Yeah, and that is for our debt service and some capital improvement.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I just because I think at some point they ran a ballot where they wanted to make it perpetual and it failed. My concern is if we run something that's no sunset, it may fail. And then we're back to, hey, let's run it again as a sunset. So that was the only question I had about that. I think that's a reasonable question to ask because it's going to take some getting out there and pushing for this over the next couple months if we're going to really pass it. It's not going to be like, hey, we're just going to do this, we're going to leave and hope the voters approve it. Like, we're going to have to sell this over the next.
I personally feel it has a better chance if we put a sunset on it 20 years or something like that.
I'm with you. I mean, Ann's projections are 20 years. You know, we can reassess and reevaluate in 20 years. I think anything we do with our citizens, any restraints you put on it makes them feel more comfortable. And so we have to be mindful of how do we get this passed.
I have to do the correction, it's 25 years. not
25
20,
years,
yes.
okay, 25, but there's a sunset on it, that's what I was just a thought, I mean, we're gonna discuss this and see, but I feel like it gives the citizens sort of like, hey, you know, your promise to deliver these things, did you deliver these things, you know, as opposed to it being perpetual, where it's like, well, now all this, you know, it's a lot harder to take a tax off once you put it on, and I know we need the revenue, but I feel like it would be more reasonable, I think, to keep us honest and keep them honest, and be to keep us honest, the city honest, and the council honest, and also to show the citizens that we build some trust. That's just my thought, because we've kind of struggled with that over the last bit of time.
Just devil's advocate on that. If you put it on there with a 20-year sunset, and you get 8 years into this deal, and you come up with a big project, and you only have 12 years left on your tax, and that's not enough to fund your planned project, you got to go back to the taxpayers sooner than 20 years. If you come up with a big project and you've only got 12 years left on the tax, but it's going to take 15 to fund it.
Yeah, and the one thing to remember, this ain't adding any more tax to the citizens.
Right.
It's just redirecting it back to the city to make crucial infrastructure repairs that are much needed. And one thing, if the repairs are needed today, you're still going to have stuff that needs repaired in 20, 25 years. And even with the 2 quarters going back to the city, City of Durant, from comparison to other cities, is within line on sales tax.
Are we not going to dedicate any of it to any particular need or item?
The 1 quarter would be used for roadway improvements, and the other quarter would be used for water and sewer improvements.
That's in
Yep. Yeah, it's in there.
it's in the part of the resolution.
I don't have that. I don't have that copy.
And we definitely, the city definitely has needs in both them categories,
Right, and will.
and continue, you're right.
Any copies of this for everybody? This resolution?
Should have been one. You got a copy of the resolution?
I've read it on the internet, but
You have one? Nope.
I don't have a resolution.
it was on I think it was on the packet, on the website, is where I read it off of. Or maybe it was an email.
I couldn't find it, but I was
That helps
looking
with
for it.
everything too.
I got it more.
Is that yours?
Yeah, that's the one I brought. Yeah, that I printed off.
I want one.
I mean, I might as well take one too, we could review it, but I've already looked at it. In case there's more discussion. Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Tom, did you have one?
I've got it. Okay. Thank you.
So that's the proposition to the voter, that it specifically says that it's to fund capital improvements, including street, water, and wastewater improvements, all for the use and benefit of the city, or for the payment of debt service in connection with obligations issued or to be issued in any public trust having the city as beneficiary to finance or refinance said capital improvements and related costs. So that directs it specifically, the purpose of the expenditures of that tax from the city. And I don't think, I think the need's gonna be, the need right now is great. I don't wanna overemphasize the need right now, but it's significant. As the city grows, and I believe it's gonna continue to grow, I hope it does, that need's gonna continue to grow along with it. And so there will always be a need for the funding. So whether we put an expiration date on it or not is immaterial. It needs to get passed. We need to have it, obviously. An expiration date will just mean at some point in time another city council will be sitting here having the same conversation again at some point in the future, because the need's not ever going to go away. On the other side of that, if it did not have a termination date or an expiration date or a sunset on it, we say it's hard to take it off. It's not hard to take it off, because it would be very easy, I think, if we were to put a ballot together that said, I want to decrease the sales tax in the city. And I think everyone would probably say, I'm for that. Let's decrease that tax. I think that would be an easy one to pass.
But there's a debt service, right, that you're still going to be responsible for, right?
So
that's the only thing.
In that instance. But I'm saying if there weren't,
well,
and
I understand, sure.
And the city was very profitable, let's say, and very liquid cash, and they said, we got tons of money for everything. And we said, let's just lower that sales tax because, we're collecting excess funds. I think that would be an easy one. That'd be an easy ballot to present and pass. So those are the two options. Again, from just a logical perspective, the way I look at it, on whether we need to have an expiration date or not. I'm in favor of it either way. It's immaterial to me. I just know that we need to get it done. Having a 25-year term on it would be beneficial, because whatever financing we wind up taking on will be a long-term financing. Sure. A five-year window won't probably get done what needs to be done, because again, the dollar amount of the need is so great, just because of all the things that are required to bring the city back up to where it should be, and then start thinking about financing the things we need for growth. So it's a large need, a significant need.
I mean, I think we all know it's a huge need. We all want to do it now. Our issue is we're going to have to campaign for this. We're going to have to get the people to approve it. And as you're looking through this, you want to make sure the wording's correct, that they can't come up and misconstrue it in any way, or think we're going to misuse the funds, or think the wording's too open-ended and come up with some counter campaign where it doesn't get passed. So, I mean, yeah, we all see the benefit and value of it, but to the average citizen, we want to make sure that we give them no cause for doubt. And so I'm just, in my mind, going the marketing route, going, are there any holes, any loops that we have to worry about that we've got a foolproof explanation for?
As far as the usage, the drafted documents do a pretty good job of limiting the usage. It is streets and associated projects, including drainage and just anything that goes along with road construction, and then the funding of debt service for the public trust, which would be the utilities authority. Conceivably, the airport authority, it kind of falls into the same thing, but those are the limitations on the funding. So,
I mean, obviously what you're going to have is you're going to have a citizen come up and they're going to go, you're just going to use this to debt service repairs on the water treatment plant. How do we know you're actually going to go pave the streets that we want paved? And they're going to want to see, I'm not saying it should be done, but that's what we're going to be up against.
Well, that's why we have a quarter of it going to street improvements and a quarter of it going to water, utility, stuff like that. Because a quarter of it's marked for just street improvements.
I'm not sure that's exactly correct.
Actually, it's not. Let me
not.
rephrase that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The total half cent goes to the improvements,
Okay.
whether it's
Okay.
street or, we originally looked at it that way, and working with the attorney, it was decided it'd be better to put it all together.
Okay.
And the mayor read the list, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's deemed is capital improvements, which can go any which way. I mean, it boils down to management. How do we have management to handle that money well?
And you're right, Councilwoman Fuller. There is a certain amount of trust that's required because it's not being passed with a particular project in mind. The flip side of that is, a few years ago, they ran this up the flagpole with a particular project in mind, had big posters, and here's what streets were going to be fixed, and here's how it was going to be done, and people said, well, those aren't the ones I want fixed. And so it it cuts both ways, and that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very legitimate concern, but
So I think we were talking about this before. I think the next step is going to be, as part of the sort of political campaign part of it, we are going to have projects that we're going to specifically campaign to use for these funds. It's not going to just be like, just leave it open-ended, even though it gives us some leeway, because, those projects may not, it may be done, and then we'll move on different phases, whatnot. So we're going to present some things over the next month or so once we get this, once we figure out the language and everything. So there's a campaign aspect to it, which we're all going to kind of get together and, decide what those priorities are going to be, and we're going to use those to campaign for this. 'Cause like you said, we're not just going to say, hey, just trust us. We're going to actually have a plan for this.
And that's gonna be council and staff working together
Right.
to come up with some projects.
I know it has to be that way, but you know what I'm saying.
And,
It's
you gotta
frustrating.
realize too, not all the projects can be done up front.
No.
It's gotta build. The fund has to build.
We've just got our work cut out for us to campaign for this, is what it boils down to, because, I mean,
Right.
who trusts the government? Nobody.
And that's all of us.
Yeah. What's Plan B, Rick?
So item A,
What's plan B?
I think, are we in agreement? I feel like I'm bartering here with the council. Are we in agreement to call an election? Are we in agreement to asking the voters to vote on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, are we in agreement that the ordinances should be amended to move that two different quarter cents in total, half cent from one purpose over into this other purpose? We're in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of the provisions of this proposition, the point of concern is the fact that it does not terminate. Is that accurate?
I'd say so,
It
yes.
doesn't bother me that it doesn't end. I don't really, because like you were saying, we're not ever not gonna need money coming in.
No, with that, I can assure you, we will always
And things are
need
going up. I
funding.
mean, these
It-
projects are just
yeah.
gonna get larger and larger. They're not. the money-
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
My only issue is that from the voters'
Yeah.
standpoint, they may be more likely to vote for it if it has a sunset as opposed to if it's permanent.
Well,
I personally would feel that way.
well, and again, I think if you have a city council that listens to its voters, and the voters say, you guys have tons of money everywhere, and you're rolling up this big excess every year, and why don't we just lower the sales tax? I think everyone would vote for that, right? And that would be the reason to vote for a lowering of your sales tax, right?
Yeah, but that never happens.
In the history of municipality government in the United States, I doubt that has ever.
I mean,
happened.
it's a great idea in theory, but it's probably not in practice, something that really happens. Now, I will tell you, there's a 5/8 down the road that high school and all that may come off, with 34 or something. So there may be some more funding if we do tap this out, that we can go back with new projects or new ideas if necessary. Or the future council, we may not be here 10 years from now, but, so that's another thing, could, potentially come up. So there's, more availability down the road if there is a need. And you're right, there's always a need for it, but like I said,
So
from a
the only
political
concern then
standpoint,
is that we do put an end date on it. We think that that will make it better. We in agreement on that?
I think it would have a better chance of passing. My thing is, I want it to pass, right? Because we need this, and what's our best chance? And we may disagree on that, but I feel like having a sunset. All the other ones sunset, right? So this one should sunset too.
Okay.
Have we had one pass that wasn't sunsetted ever in the recent history?
I think the distinction, and I'm sorry, I think the distinction in that the others that sunset were that they were passed
For a
for a
projects.
specific purpose, and they had a bond amount that they, a financing amount that they were set to. The funding was going, the tax was going to fund this exact loan, and it was designed to pay off that loan. And when that loan was paid off, the funding disappeared. This is so, and that may be the case here. Maybe that's what's in mind. But if it's not, it's just going to be a general funding mechanism for capital improvements, both known and unknown at this time. Then that's the argument for keeping it in place indefinitely. If it's to fund specific projects or to increase the likelihood of passage, then maybe a sunset date is appropriate. But I think that's the distinction between some of those earlier ones, is they were very specific project and funding mechanisms.
So even though that limitation is missing, and we're down to what we think we can get voters to support, then if we're looking at the proposition itself, where it says in order that the September 30, 2024 termination date of this shall be eliminated, we should change that to say shall be extended until 25 years.
Yeah, whatever that
Is
number.
25 years the number?
Yeah, I mean, I think the
Can't be
1%.
5.
The 1% is 25 years, right? And that's something that never changes. I mean, there's no specific project in mind with the 1% that was re-upped last time, right? So, I mean, that argument's kind of,
If we get it on there, if it will pass with the no sunset, then, well, that would be a smart thing for us to do. It's just, will it pass? If it doesn't pass, we can come back and try it again.
Do we have time to do that? I was just asking if we had time to do that before it sunsetted.
yeah, we do, because I think it's, there's a bunch of options on, this is the first one, but, I mean, there's other dates we can look at, but I mean, this is going to involve campaigning, so if you go in there, you want to get your best chance to get it passed, so we don't have to go back at it again after we already failed one time. It's my only concern, but it may pass either way, but it's just something that like I said, it makes it a little bit more questionable.
So if I'm looking at the proposition and if I were to edit this document, if I were to take out the word eliminated and change that word to say extended until September 30 of 2049, would then that be one that the council would support?
I guess.
I'd really like for the whole council
Yeah.
to support this.
Yeah. The question is do we want to attempt it?
I mean, I'll support whatever it is, but I'm just telling you, if we may, 25 years from now, I mean, is what it is. But I mean, none of us are probably not going to be here.
Yeah, I'll
So-
support it too.
I mean, I'll go with either one, but I just don't want it to fail because of the sunset. That's my concern, because we had a previous one fail because of the sunset. Now, they may have not campaigned. I don't remember that much about it, but I know it failed, so.
Cindy, you've been working with Alan Brooks, the attorney,
Yes.
that's helping us on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, he said if we change any of the wording,
Well, I just asked him about that.
Yes.
I've been kind of giving him play-by-plays through this. He said if it is only about the sunset date, we don't need another meeting.
okay,
As
that's
long
what I
as
wanted to
they're both
clarify.
together and that everyone's in agreement over the other verbiage.
Okay, we just had to get the paperwork drawn that.
No, well, yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, but we don't need another meeting.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
You'll just need to say that verbally out loud.
That one
Get
edit
that
that I
one
just
edit.
tried to.
Yeah, in the
my
motion.
Poor
Make the
way to
motion.
describe.
And that amendment would be implied and applied throughout. There's several places
Right.
within proposition and the
other
headings and
documents.
everything that it
It
would,
would read uniformly through all
Yes.
the documents, right? So do we generally have consensus around that at this point?
I think we're.
Tepid agreement,
It's a tough call. I mean,
if I'm being generous.
if
I mean,
I knew it was gonna-
it makes sense. I mean, something comes up and you have to finance it and you don't have time to pay it off, I mean, it makes sense not having a sunset on there, but, I mean, my only concern is, you know.
I mean, that's
getting
my
it
concern
passed.
too. I get that. Sure, if it's perpetual, you can, you can borrow more, you can do that kind of stuff. I get it. But I'm just telling you, just from a voter standpoint. I don't
But
know
if we
that's
make
gonna be
this
a thing.
campaign about the children and their future,
In a village,
Wow.
then we can definitely come up with a campaign for a perpetual tax here, because it's not getting cheaper to live and it's not getting cheaper to run this town. So I'm with you guys. I understand, like, we want this to pass, and if we have to make some compromises, that's what we have to do. But I think if we play our cards right, we might could pass it. But I mean, we think about this. The majority of voters are elderly people, correct? Am I wrong? The majority of them are elderly people. So we've got to make a campaign to them for their grandchildren, and we got to make a campaign to get these young families out that says, what do you want this town to look like when your kids are grown, when your grandkids are here? Do you want it all of a sudden to stop? Do you want the progress to stop? So I think it's a campaign that we just have to be careful on how we word.
I agree. Any other comments or concerns, questions? Hearing none, I will move under item 1A for approval of this resolution. And I won't read it again. I read it earlier. I want to make the following edit in the resolution. Whether it says after amending the ordinances, amend ordinance number 1431 of the city by, I want to strike the word eliminating and insert the word extending. The termination date, where it says comma, I want to insert the words until September 30, 2049, and not change any more of the language in that paragraph there. And that is my motion.
You want to second that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Shear,
yes,
Councilmember Fuller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simulescu,
Yes.
Mayor Tucker.
Yes. Item number B is consider and take action with respect to an ordinance of the city of Durant, Oklahoma, the city amending ordinance number 1430 and 1431 of the city by eliminating the September 30, 2024 termination date for the collection of the excise tax levied pursuant to said ordinances, and by modifying the purpose of said tax levied pursuant to said ordinances, providing for the effective date, providing remainder of ordinances remain unchanged, providing that the provisions of this ordinance are cumulative in addition to any and all taxing provisions of other city ordinances, providing for severability of provisions and containing other provisions related thereto, which is 2023-19. And I would suggest, and I'm not ready to make a motion yet, we'll discuss this, but I would add the same precise edit to this paragraph as well. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I mean, I think we've already talked about it, so.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Motion to
Motion.
approve 1B.
Second.
With the edits that I described.
With the edit.
We have a motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Shear,
yes,
Councilmember Fuller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simulescu,
Yes.
Mayor Tucker.
Yes. Next item is adjournment. I move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Shear,
Yes.
Councilmember Fuller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simulescu,
Yes.
Mayor Tucker.
Yes, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.